Well, hello and welcome or welcome back to Read Becca for our closing ceremony. It's a sad day when we wrap up Lovember, but I had a great past 2 weeks of reading. I had some fun times. I really have enjoyed seeing what vlogs are out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more as they go up. You all influenced me, certainly with some of your picks, and I'll show those in a little bit, or talk about those a little bit more. But overall, it was a really wonderful readathon, and I just had so much fun, and that was the whole goal. So we won. We won Lovember, I think. In my second week, I only read two things only, but I had a great reading time this week. So I read The Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lawley. I have read Lawley's The Matchmaker List before, and I enjoyed that very much, but it was a more chick lit. I would say it was very much more focused on the characters' development internally, their kind of growth, and their relationship with their family. And it did not center the romance quite as much. So it wasn't so much a romance book. It wasn't the central focus. And here I think we did get that same level of really great handling of the character growth internally, grappling with some real internal stuff, and family relationships that are complex, as well as actually having the romance front and center. So I think this found that right balance for sure. So in this story, we are following Nikki as she is sort of, everything is looking up in her life. She's very busy and invested in her job. And her parents approach her saying, well, you're still single and you're getting older. You're not getting any younger. Can we set you up? So she gets set up on a date. And as she's amping herself up for this date, she gets called into her boss's office and is fired. And so all of this stuff that she's had, this investment in her work, kind of falls apart. And that, of course, sets her off for this great storyline of going off and having a great time. She had put off going to one of her best friend's wedding in India because she thought she wasn't going to have time off work to do it. And so now she is free. She's available to go do it. And she does. She goes and experiences a lot of things for herself for the first time. She's never been to India or explored that side of her identity. And as she is there, she of course meets a handsome stranger who's involved with the wedding and sort of decides that maybe this is the right time to have a fling, despite many warnings from her friends that she can't just have a fling without catching feelings. So kind of course, you know what's gonna happen. So I loved the fling. I loved the relationship that she had. They were super respectful with each other, and I liked seeing them both within their sort of Indian culture as being sort of young progressive people. The guy that she is getting into the relationship with is not living in India. He's living in London, so it would be long distance, but it also wouldn't be the same as India. And he went to school in LA, and that's how she kind of knows the mutual friend who is getting married. And she has a backstory with him through her friend. She knows aspects of who he was before as a younger person, and so she's building from some foreknowledge of who this person is. And I really liked seeing that. I also really like seeing the context of their relationship in a culture where there is a lot put upon from parental expectations, and the difference between different parents, different aunties that they encounter as, you know, they're trying to do something that's kind of casual, and some people are more receptive than others, and the varied expectations that they experience. I also just really loved seeing it handle in a nuanced way the cultural expectations put on her as an individual. She's from the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, and I think the author is actually from Canada. I'm pretty sure as well the Matchmaker List was an Indo-Canadian character as well. But she is an outsider to many people because of that. And additionally, she is Punjabi and Sikh. And so that also puts her as an even further outsider for some people. So she does experience some bullying based on who she is, her caste. And I think that was really important that we did delve into that a little bit, and even talk about, you know, why Punjabi Sikhs are celebrating Diwali, and that it is kind of a broader cultural holiday is discussed. And this does actually follow through from Diwali straight through to Christmas. So this is a great holiday book in incorporating those major holiday elements and making those a big part of the storytelling and why it's important to them culturally. So I really liked that aspect, and it kind of hit all of the right notes for me because of that. The one thing I didn't like, it was cruising along. I absolutely was unable to put this down almost until we hit the third act breakup. Ugh. I mean, I'm not going to talk about what it was or why or anything, but it was just such a disappointment. For me, it felt out of character, but I almost always hate third act breakups. I don't understand why this continues to be a thing. It's very much a trope in romance that there's always this third act breakup. It just was unnecessary. I get why it happened, and it enabled the play out of some things that were set up earlier, but it was just so disappointing, and it felt very immature, I guess, from characters who hadn't really been behaving that way. So that was the one dud, but I think this was a big step up from the first book, and I had liked the writing very, very much in the first book that I had read. And so I think that Lolly now has like 4 or 5 books out. I think there is another one connected to this one, following her sister, in fact, now. So I will definitely be checking out more from Sonia Lolly because this was great. As far as spice, I forgot to tab or note any spicy scenes. I don't think there was anything actually spicy in here. Like the word breast might be the most explicit thing that was in here, maybe. But yeah, I don't remember if there was anything at all, so I don't think there was. And then I also read another novella very quickly before wrapping up today. I read Hen Fever by Olivia Waite, who I have also read from before in, I can't remember the name of the series. It's like Women's Guide to Celestial Mechanics or something like that. That's the first one. But she writes specifically sapphic historical romances, and this was no exception. This was a fun one, and it is kind of holiday associated. That association was very, very light. There weren't really any major holiday notes to this, just mentions that it was happening around Christmas. So this story is the story of women falling in love over a poultry competition. Because as it says, Hen Fever, we are at some point post-war, so there are mentions across this of kind of the traumas of war, but we don't really delve too deep into that. We're following Lydia and Harriet. Lydia is very invested in her chickens and really is following around her rooster after he's gotten out, and is preparing for the Christmas poultry competition for show chickens. So their plumage has to be perfect, and she's off panicking trying to find her rooster when she goes onto the neighbor's property and discovers a new neighbor has just moved in, has inherited this abandoned house next door. And this person has no idea about chickens, but just kind of wants her off their property. However, as it turns out, her rooster has stumbled onto a rare local breed of wild chickens. And so there's a very contrived plot there of the two of these women winding up there together at night, and trying to capture these chickens for potential show. But the new neighbor, Harriet feeling like she's entitled to these chickens a bit because they're on her property. So that means, of course, these two ladies kind of start off on the wrong foot. They do quickly work through that and sort of band together to help one another with presenting these chickens as show chickens and prepping them for competition. And so that is the most of this story. It's the bulk, them getting together to try and prep wild chickens for show. And it's a silly plot. It's not done overly goofy because it's a historical, it's kind of done in a serious way. But it was just charming. Because it's winter, there's kind of some dramatic plot surrounding the weather and the big show that's gonna happen at the end for Christmas. And so that all was very charming and kept the story moving along. We did also have a little bit of steam. There's one steamy scene in this, definitely steamy, so Waite does not shy away from that. And I think overall, as a novella, like this was a really great use of a small amount of pages. It definitely hit all of the notes you like to see in the development of a romantic relationship. It had, as I said, a little bit of spice and a charming story to tell. So I very, very much enjoyed this one. So I think that's it for what I finished actually this week. And then the other one that I mentioned, I think that I finished at the end of last week and haven't talked about yet for Lovember, is Stone Song. So Stone Song was very fun, and it is a novel length, but it felt a little insubstantial to me. So it is a urban fantasy story, and I would say it really closely balances on that line of, is it urban fantasy or is it paranormal romance? Because the romance definitely took a while to get going and didn't feel quite as prominent as I expected it to. So we are following a geologist who in Ireland has kind of always had this draw to stones and never really had an explanation for it, but she's known that's her passion. And she has, of course, a side job working at a crystal shop as well. So she's made rocks her whole life. And unbeknownst to her, as it turns out, we find out very early on, she's a secret chosen one in this Fae plot where effectively she is the seeker of a stone that will sort of protect everyone from the bad Fae. And of course the bad Fae are now coming to get her. So because she's the chosen one, though, there is a man who is secretly her protector, who she's never known anything about, but he has been all along for years been tracking her and protecting her, stopping the baddies from getting her. And now this whole secret world is opened up to her. And so she finds out a lot of family secrets, a lot of secrets about things going on that she never would have perceived were happening, and now she can very literally see magical auras surrounding her because all of a sudden it's the right time. And I think that timing element was something that was sort of done very well in moving this plot forward and kind of saying how we've hit these different points along the path for her. I loved the way that it incorporated different sort of more knowledgeable, like elders, wise people into the story, and incorporated all these people that did really care about her in a loving way. This one, oddly coming right off of the New Year book, so New Year, New Planet. In the last wrap-up, I specifically mentioned how it had some things that bothered me about family. This was completely the opposite. This had a wonderful representation for chosen family and adoption rep. So really fantastic on that. I thought it was handled perfectly. I also just really enjoyed the action. So the way the sort of fighting, I guess, worked. And I personally don't read a ton of this sort of Fae urban fantasy, but certainly the mechanism of, I guess, the fights and the attacks was fresh to me. It felt like something new, so I liked that. And I enjoyed it. I found it very entertaining. But to what I said up front, it felt like it was almost 300 pages, I think, or just shy of 300 pages, and it felt like it was barely over a novella. So it didn't really build from the amount of pages that it had. Like totally the opposite of Hen Fever, where I felt like that used its pages so efficiently to get a really complete story. This one, it felt very padded. I don't feel like a lot happened, or it fleshed everything out, or I got to know the characters terribly much. But it was compelling, and I had a good time with it, I think. So that is a win, I guess. This one was a little bit spicy, very, very little bit, but not very much. So this was a less spicy week than last week, I think. Yeah, so I think that's it for what I read this week. But to what I said earlier, I had a fantastic time seeing other people's accounts of what they were reading, either in posts and comments or in vlogs. So far, I'm looking forward to seeing the back half of your reading in the second week. But I did see Shannon in her TBR had picked up Something Wild and Wonderful, and it sounded great. So I also picked that up for my slush pile, or my excess overflow pile. This one is Gays Who Keep Running Into Each Other on the Pacific Crest Trail. It sounds lovely. So that was number one on my slush pile that you influenced me on. And then Books and Cooks maybe influenced me to actually give Ice Planet Barbarians a try. Further on in the series, I think the first book is not going to work for me, but I'm dabbling with the idea of trying out a later book, maybe next year. We will see. And then the other two slush pile options that I didn't get to, but I will be getting to probably coming up soon, is Once Upon a December by Amy E. Reichert. As you can see, this is an adorable little holiday romance, and we're following a woman who is recently divorced and heartbroken, but her favorite thing is going to the Milwaukee holiday market. So that is charming on its own, but of course the guy that she is falling for seems to be a baker who is selling his wares at the holiday market. So you may not be able to see it here, but there's like a line of pastries there. So of course I didn't need to know anything else. I just picked that one up. And then the last one that I have left to get to is Debbie Burns' You're My Home. And again, this one I literally have not even looked at the synopsis. This is the 7th book, I think, in the Rescue Me series. This is probably my favorite romance series. I did not know there was a new book out. This is brand new. And this is my favorite because it centers around people involved with a dog rescue. And not only that, it is a dog rescue in my area. I'm pretty sure it's based on a real rescue that I know of. And so all of the places that they go and things they do are very familiar and local to me. And I just love this series. So I'm super excited that I checked going into Lovember to wander around the romance shelves, and there happened to be a brand new book out. So yes, I'm looking forward to that one. So let me know down below if you enjoyed Lovember, if you completed all your TBR from the prompts, and tell me what your best book of Lovember was that you read. And as I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing people's wrap-ups or vlog part 2s. We will see what else people have to say about it. But I hope everyone had a great time. And as I said in the first video, right at the beginning, if you read a romance book or you tried to read a romance book, you are a winner in my book. So happy Lovember to everyone, and to all a good night. Thank you so very much for watching.